Welcome into Rounding the Bases.
Round the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.
Welcome into Rounding the Bases, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist, presented by Community America Credit Union. If you know the boxing world at all, you would know the name Christy Martin. You may not know her maiden name, Christy Salter. She goes by either, but most importantly, has an incredibly powerful message that certainly would apply to this podcast, any story, and a big event coming up as well. If you're listening to this the week it comes out in Kansas City, really so important in terms of domestic violence. Christy Salters, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm great. Excited to be there. I'm excited to be with you today. I'm excited to come to Kansas City next week or 2 weeks. How far away are we?
Whenever it is. On the
31st, July 31st is when I'll be there.
Yeah. So the event is for Hope House. We'll talk more about that in a moment. For people that don't know Christy's story, first off, I can't do it enough justice to get into all of the details. You can find them, and we'll have that linked in the show notes. 48 hours and the millions of stories that have been done. And really, Christy, the stories were being done on you from well before this thing got scary and crazy, because you were a pioneer in terms of female boxing, and suddenly on center stage in the ring in front of the world too. What do you remember of those days? I know you went by Christy Martin, the coal miner's daughter, right? Girl from West Virginia. And you became a star, right?
It was crazy. I mean, literally, I'm from a town of maybe 500 people. It's actually 1 mile long from welcome to now leaving. And so to be across the table trying to negotiate a contract with Don King is pretty unbelievable. And then to be able to fight in Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace, Jim Grand, Mandalay Bay, and then the Mecca in New York City to fight in the Garden. It was unbelievable, fighting under legends, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Tito Trinidad, Chavez, Hearns, the list goes on and on. Some of the guys that I actually got to fight on the same card with. So it's a dream come true on as far as my professional life went. It was just unbelievable.
But not necessarily a dream that you had growing up, if I've done my research right. I mean, it's not like as you were a phenomenal athlete, right? But you didn't necessarily think, hey, one day I'm going to be a boxer. Then again, I don't know how many girls were thinking that at that point, right?
You're absolutely right. And I don't know how good of it, I wouldn't use the word phenomenal basketball player, but I love the sport. And I often tell people that I thought I was in my range the minute I walked in the gym. There wasn't a shot I wouldn't take. So basketball was definitely my first love as far as sports goes. But yeah, I somewhere along the line, I decided I wanted to do this boxing thing. And I thought, why not? As many people were telling me, you can't do it. That just added fuel to the fire. Like, I'm going to show you. And that's what I did. And yeah, I did definitely not grow up thinking I wanted to be a professional boxer. But man, what a career choice and what a ride I had.
So you became hooked on it pretty, maybe not early on in your life, but once you were exposed to boxing, it sounds like it clicked right away, and then everything, mostly, I guess, in the best of ways, snowballed, right? I mean, at what point were you like, wait a minute, I love this, and this could be a career?
It was actually deep into the career, the road that we traveled there, before I really started thinking this could be a career. I could make money at this. The beginning, I fought those tough man contests. You had to win the entire contest to get paid. And I was fortunate enough to win, but didn't really get the money that I was supposed to get. So I say that was my first lesson in boxing. And then as a professional, I had my first 7 pro fights without ever being in a boxing gym. I played basketball in college, and I was in good shape, not boxing shape, but I was in good physical shape. So I was able to go out there and basically outwork. I was an athlete, so I was able to outwork some of the opponents. But it just, to me, there was just no bigger challenge than going out there and competing one-on-one physically with another opponent.
Well, I mean, there have to be a couple of things. I mean, I don't I've never boxed, but you have to have clearly that toughness. You have to have that athleticism. You have to have that work ethic. You can't just show up in a sport like that or you're going to get hurt and embarrassed. So I'm guessing that just your athletic background and that desire, that work ethic, maybe growing up the coal miner's daughter and where you did, had to lead to a lot of your success, didn't it?
I think so, definitely. I saw my father work so hard day in, day out, hour after hour. And I understood that whatever you're going to be successful at in life, if you're going to be successful, it's going to take hard work and commitment, passion to whatever it is that you're doing. But man, I just, again, never expected to be a boxer. And at early in the stage of my career, I had no idea how serious it was. Like, because I'd never been in the gym, I had never been in the business of boxing. I really had no idea how I could have gotten hurt. So had I met Christy Martin of a few years later, early in my career, it would have been ugly because I wasn't ready for that.
Well, it, from a boxing standpoint, obviously worked out. It ended up becoming not just some kind of sideshow, not something unique, although it was very unique at that point still to have a woman succeeding in boxing. I know the way, but suddenly you became a major attraction. You're on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. I know that, and it's got to be weird to see your story having been told on 48 Hours, because I feel like those stories, you always see them, on TV, and you're like, wait a minute, did that really happen? There's like, this is like a movie. This is unbelievable. And that's what yours is. Like you have that story. And that is, one of the reasons why you're speaking at Hope House or for Hope House. One of the reasons why you do this now all over the country. And we'll get into that in a bit. I don't even know where to begin with all the layers of it. And we won't cover all of it, but somewhere in the middle of all of this, you're dealing with something you're hiding from your family. You're dealing with a man that you meet professionally who turns into your husband and who ultimately tries to take your life. Fill in a few of the blanks there, because we could go for 2 hours, as you know. This is not anything that anyone could have ever imagined, I guess.
It is difficult because as I sit here to talk to you, it's like, people say, share your story with me. And at first I'm just like, okay, let's go. And then I'm like, no, this is my life. This is crazy. I mean, it's crazy when I sit back and I look at all the different layers, as you said, of things that have happened. And I've dealt with, sexuality, not being accepted, not having support from your family, and then the domestic violence. The abuse is not always about bruises. And that's what I want to bring to people's attention, that when you have bruises, that you can go to your dad, you can go to the police, you can go to friends, whomever, and show them, hey, this is what this person did to me. But when it's just emotional, it's control, it's mental games, it's hard to explain that to someone that has never experienced it. So that was my situation for about 90% of the 20 years. It was just the games and emotional and control and isolation. That, I think that's like the biggest thing that abusers try to do. They want to isolate their person from everybody, from their friends, from their family, from their professional colleagues. And that's what happened to me. So, as time went on, you start relying. It goes to the Stockholm syndrome. You start believing, you believe in what he says, and you believe that, yeah, he is the only person that can save me, that can help me. And you start to trust him. And it just, even though it may be in the back of my mind, I knew better, but you still you just gradually let it happen. You give in, you get beat down. You're like the dog, right? You get whipped, you get whipped, you get whipped. And then finally you're just in the corner.
Well, and I think that what makes you such a powerful and influential person, I mean, beyond obviously the credentials, is the fact that, and you don't have to be a boxing fan, but everybody knows that any professional boxer is tough. Some may be tougher than others, some may be better than others, but you don't get in the boxing ring as someone that is afraid or someone that is soft, right? I mean, again, we could say who's tougher than who or who's better or whatever it is. My point is that I think that there's oftentimes that stigma of, well, it couldn't happen to someone that's tough. It couldn't happen. I mean, if this woman became famous for hanging in there and winning while being bloodied up and nothing can stop her, then how could she possibly be abused? And so to me, that makes you really as powerful and as influential of a voice in the world of domestic violence as there can be, because it's the old, well, if it could happen to her, then it can happen to anyone. Do you see it? Do you hear a lot of that? Do you feel a lot of that?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I think. I mean, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. And so by sharing my story, I feel like that I'll help people that maybe don't think they're so tough, or other people, maybe they don't feel like they need to live up to that stigma of, oh, I'm tough, I can handle anything. And that's the whole thing. I mean, physically, I was tough. Mentally, I was tough, but he broke me down over time, and just little every time I did something great, every really cool, like great cover of Sports Illustrated, I brought it home. I had to go to the store and buy it. They sent me some, but I wanted to go buy it off the shelf. I lay it down. I'm telling the story about buying it, and well, you're only on the cover because of what I did for you. And it's like every time there was something so positive, he would pull me right back down. And anytime I got excited and proud and happy for me, but started to believe in me again, he shot it down. So if I can just explain to this and get it through people's head that it's just, again, it's not all about the beatings, it's not all about the hitting, it's sometimes just about the put downs and the beat downs mentally and emotionally. The words are powerful. Words are so powerful and hurtful. If just little things sometimes. And sometimes people want to say, oh, I'm just playing, or I'm just, playfully putting your person down. Every now and then, maybe because you're joking, fun. But after a time, it wears on you, and you start to believe that that's the way that person sees you.
I'll get back again to being the toughest one out there, but I say this all the time, covering Major League Baseball players every single day. And I've covered all the sports, a little bit of boxing along the way. These athletes, we make the assumption that because they're the greatest baseball players in the world, or football players, or whatever it is, that and because they're making millions of dollars, that suddenly means that they're immune to life. We don't show up to work and tell everybody all of our deepest secrets or our problems, but just because you're making millions of dollars, whether you're that CEO, or whether you are the top athlete or an actor, or whatever it is, you still, as I say, everybody still has stuff, right? And so you were, like anyone, dealing with stuff. But I think that the extra layer to that, you mentioned the sexuality too, is that you were trying to be someone that you weren't, and having to deal with all of that at once, and an abusive husband who happened to be your coach, who you had married just to kind of, I think, from the way I understand it, please your family, who wasn't happy with knowing that you were gay. And so you went down this other path. So it's not like this was just, I don't think there's anything as simple as abuse, but it wasn't just abuse, right? I mean, you were carrying a lot and performing at the highest level. How did you do that?
I did carry a lot, and I don't want people to think that Jim wasn't aware of my previous relationships with females. He knew all about it. And because he knew, and I was open with Jim because he was, he was a lot older. I felt like he was my confidant early on, and my coach, that relationship that coaches and athletes have. I trusted him, but many of the things that I was open with him about came back to haunt me, as he used it as blackmail throughout our marriage. So yeah, but it was great because boxing, I felt like with boxing, I was able to, that was the only place I was safe. And that was the only place that I could really be me and be aggressive and be out there and do my thing. Whereas in real life, he was always, telling me what I could wear, what I couldn't wear, telling me, what to eat, Man weighed me 3 times a day. I had to weigh. Just he controlled every little aspect of my life, but I gave into it. I let that happen. I was a, I am, and I was a grown adult. I should have never given in, but that's how they work. Narcissists, they just work on you and break you down. And sometimes you just get to where it's easier to give in than to fight.
Well, and I want to get after the next question to just some of that advice that you can break down for so many women that are dealing with this in all types of circumstances, right? Some that no one would ever believe, because how could that happen to someone? And in some cases, something that you might say, oh God, I could see that happening, but they're all in scary places. And so, in some ways you had it the worst because he tried to take your life. And I have no idea, having watched the 48 hours video, I don't know how you survived. To be stabbed multiple times and shot. I think I assume that's the boxer in you, that survival mode of what happened to you in the ring. Because I saw you took some beatings and you can handle them. Not everybody would be so fortunate, obviously, to be able to survive an attempted murder like you did. But was there a survival element for you to somehow make it through that?
All I can really say is God is good, and God has a plan for me. And as soon as I really woke up and started to become lucid back in the hospital, I was like, God left me here for a reason. And that reason is to get out there, share my story, and make people more aware of domestic violence. I think, again, people don't understand the different degrees. I guess, would degrees be the right word? Categories is a better word, of domestic violence. And control is big part of domestic violence. So yeah, that's all my whole thing. Why I'm here, I have no idea, because he shot me with my own pink 9mm, missed my heart by the most 3 inches, the doctor told me. Stabbed me repeatedly. My lung was punctured. I could hear that gurgling sound. It was scary. It was scary, and every time I tried to get up, like blood would squirt out of different holes in my body. So I was too scared to get up. But finally, I prayed, help me, and I think God must have carried me out.
Yeah, I know that you went unconscious, but still came back, and he's in the shower, and you get out of there and find some of I think what the story was, you took the wrong keys, and so you end up running into
But how crazy is that? I've been shot, stabbed, lungs punctured. I can hear the gurgling sound, and I think I'm going to drive myself to the hospital, which if I had the right keys, I would have.
Right. Again, that's the fighter in you. Maybe not everybody would have that fight. Maybe a lot of women, or men for that matter, Christy, would have given up. And I'm not, how could you not? You stabbed 4 times and shot, but yet there was something that enabled you to stay alive. And you just talked about that it has given you this opportunity, which can be life-changing for so many now. And I think that because I feel like in my role as a speaker, I feel like I always have a message. I talk to groups about culture and leadership, and it's the most rewarding thing to have someone come up afterwards and say, you know what, you just changed my perspective. You just helped me with that. But yours is so much more specific to so many people that are trying to survive and stay alive and get out of the scary situation. So how much does that fuel you every day to know that you can save lives every time that you get up in front of a microphone, an audience, or even on a podcast?
I think that's what keeps me going, because I'm still healing, and I'm still trying to find a place to put all this. And every time that I do speak, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's in front of a group of people, it helps me heal, but it helps me to know that I reach people. And if somebody, like exactly what you just said, when someone comes to me afterwards, and I had a grandmother come to me recently, and she said, my granddaughter's been reaching out to me. She needs help, and she's putting it off. And she said, I understand now after hearing you. I have to go home now and make a difference. Yeah, you do, Grandma. You can't wait. I mean, you don't know when this guy's switch is gonna flip and he's gonna kill her. You have no idea. You don't know, so you can't give him. Don't give him a day, a week, a year, because you just never know. You don't know what's going on in their mind.
I mean, every situation's different, but and you talked about different degrees or different levels or different categories, I think you said, but it's all bad. It's all scary. I know there's not a one size fits all piece of advice, but is there an underlying message that you can give any woman or anyone that is in a scary situation? What is your general thought in giving someone like that hope for their future?
There's always someone out there that will help you. I mean, I think that is the thing that keeps so many women, men in a relationship that's dangerous, but there's always help out there for you. I mean, you may have to search a little harder for somebody that you're comfortable with, but there's always Christy's Champs is here. You can get me on social media. We will do our best to put you in the right situation, to help you get out of the situation, to put you in contact with people that can help you in your area. But when it happens once, go, because it's going to happen again. And the problem is it escalates. My situation was almost 20 years, and it was physical only a few, but when it was really, really physical, I mean, he left me for dead. So don't let it escalate to that degree.
Yeah, and you didn't in the moment. You can't know that it's going to end that way. You're too close to it, right? I mean, you know it's not right.
Except in my personal situation, this makes me think I'm crazy, which I am a little. But he told me for 20 years he would kill me if I left. And at first I was young and I thought he was joking. You say crazy stuff, right? But not that I never took it seriously. And I try to still, I think back and try to remember, when was that time when I all of a sudden realized that this was true? But by the end, I knew he was going to kill me if I left. But I also was so low, I was ready to die. Until halfway through the attack, after he had stabbed me a few times, he's pistol whipping me, and I told him with an explicit words or two, you cannot kill me. And I meant it. I mean, I meant it wholeheartedly. I don't know what he could have done at that time to kill me. I was going to live.
I think there was probably a perception too. I mean, this man became your husband, but before that, he was your coach. He was your confidant. He was really that next step for you in boxing as you rose to the top. If you've been in a room with him just hand to hand, you could have taken him at any moment, right? I mean, you were younger, in better shape, tougher than him, and all of that. But yet, that doesn't change the mental abuse and the way that he was able to manipulate you and blackmail you every single moment, right? I mean, there's, to me, it seems like that side of abuse, because it can't be seen necessarily by others, can be as powerful and dangerous as physical abuse.
Absolutely. And that's why I try to always bring that to the forefront. It's not just about the bruises. It's about the mental and emotional scars that people put on you. And even the physical abuse and bruises, of course, lead to the mental, and you remember that, and you remember that beating. But when somebody just says something negative to you, every time there's a positive, and just keeps putting you down and putting you down, and always, it's hard to get over. I mean, still today, I can sometimes hear his voice when something good happens. I still hear his voice, faintly, but I hear it. Is it real, or do you got this because of something else? It's hard. It's hard to. They destroy the belief in yourself.
All right, so let's move to some good times here, and the biggest home run. And I don't usually know the answer, but sometimes with a guest, I have an idea of what it might be based on their career. But I really don't know whether your biggest home run would be in the ring you had a lot of wins in your career and you knocked a lot of people out, or if it's the work that you're doing now or something in between. What's the biggest home run of your career in your mind, Christy?
Well, as I answered those questions, I thought, well, the biggest home run is definitely the Deirdre Gogarty fight on the undercard of Mike Tyson, because that was what catapulted me to the cover of Sports Illustrated. And that is what put me in position to have a little stronger voice today when I speak about domestic violence. Then people can relate back to, oh, that was Christy Martin that did the boxing. And that was, she was the strong person. So I feel like it helps my story, as we talked about, have a little more power behind it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all the credibility. I mean, it's, you were the greatest. You were the champ. Once champ, always the champ. But I think now taking and leveraging what you were able to do in the ring and that name and the covers and all the attention, forget about the money. I mean, that's money's money, but to have that influence to get up in front of people and change lives, as we've talked about, is so inspirational. How about a swing and a miss? I've had when you and I were on the phone, you kind of laughed at that one. And I hear that from a lot of people, because many of us have countless swings and misses, and it's like, which one do you choose? So what's the biggest swing and miss you've taken, and what did you learn from it?
Well, I think clearly, as you said, there's tons of them, but the biggest one would have to be trusting Jim Martin. I mean, I believed in him and I trusted him that he would always have my best interests at heart. And to find out, well, not only did he try to kill me, but just some of the other things of stealing the money that he did, it's unbelievable. But so that was definitely my biggest swing and miss.
And then small ball, and every boxer, well, everybody in life should play small ball, but boxers live small ball, because when you're competing at the level that you were, I don't even understand the hours that you're getting up and training and running and in the gym and all those type of things. The discipline is unbelievable. I don't know if you ever lose that or not. What are the little things that add up to the big wins, the big home runs in your life?
Well, I actually took it the reverse of this. Instead of saying what I had to do to, those 4:00 in the morning runs and sparring with the guys and all that stuff to lead to the positive, what it took to get there, I took it the opposite. And I was like, you know what? Small ball to me is small potatoes, caring what people think, caring what people say about you. I mean, that stuff's small, who cares? But with that being said, it was so important to me at one time in my life, what people thought about me, what people said. If people thought I was a good fighter, people thought I was a good person. I mean, I want them to think I'm a good person still today, but it just has less weight. It's all about, it's about what I'm bringing to the table, not what somebody else's perception of what I'm doing or saying is all about.
That's great. I love that. And there's a strong mental side to that too. I think some of that comes, as we get a little bit older too, we get a little bit more wise. I find myself every day seeing some of those things that used to bug me in the past. I was like, why did that,
Yeah.
But it takes experience and time to get there. Okay. I always wrap it up with 4 final questions that kind of come out of nowhere, pop up in my head as we're going along. So we'll start with this one. I know you had a lot of big moments in the ring. You also mentioned a lot of major names and, the Mike Tysons and the Don Kings and Lennox Lewis and all that. Who was the one fighter when you were around them, you were there at the arena where you had to stop everything you were doing? Oh my gosh, I got to watch that person.
Well, I would say it's a little bit different. It's Marvin Hagler. And I was at the Hall of Fame with him numerous times in Canastota, New York. And every time he would walk in the room, I would hide. I was so intimidated by Marvin Hagler. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Marvin Hagler. And so for like one weekend, I was able to avoid him every day, every situation, avoid him. It's kind of like you watch from the corner. So now we're in the line. We're getting ready to be introduced. Marvin Hagler's walking to me, and they've already told me, don't move. You have to stay in this line, because we're going to introduce you guys in order. And he comes up to me and he says, you have a really great left hook. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, Marvin Hagler even knows my name. And knows that I like to throw a left hook. It was so unbelievable to me. But yeah, Hagler, and that encounter with him will be that was very special.
The marvelous one, Marvin Hagler.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
those old Hagler Hearns fights were so good back in the day, and loved all those. All right, second question as we round the bases. I like asking this one to athletes a lot too, because I've seen and covered so many athletes in my career where it's like nicest person, just normal, great conversation, and then they get, on the field, on the ice, in the ring, whatever it is, and the switch flips.
Yep.
And I can't imagine that there's anything more like that than boxing. But I mean, I've seen pitchers go on the mound and suddenly they're ready to take no prisoners, and they're throwing 100, and the world is against them, and on and on and on. What was that switch like for you? Because you're as nice of a person to talk to, and obviously such an inspirational woman. But I've seen some of those videos and the picture in the ring, and you were on a mission. What were those moments like for you? Did a switch flip, or how did you get there?
Absolutely. And I could feel it as you do the ring walk, and then you can even see it in some of my ring walks. And like they start the coal miner's daughter, and it's like as soon as that song starts, it's like the eyes just glaze over. It's just different. I mean, all of a sudden, it's a different person that left the dressing room that actually crawls through those ropes and gets in the ring. Because I mean, my mentality in boxing is, let me go out there and knock you out as soon as I can, because I'm getting the same check if I go 1 minute or 10 rounds. It doesn't matter. I'm getting the same check. So why stand there for 10 rounds? Let's get a knockout and go home.
So just a quick follow-up to that before I get to my third question. Do you find that you're able to get maybe not the same feeling, but that energy or that fulfillment getting on stage now? Or how do you burn off that energy now?
I definitely, I sometimes will bring a little DVD with some of my knockouts and stuff, just to kind of get me, to that, okay, fight mode, right? And ready to deliver the speaking. I don't even like to call it a speech. I just get up there and talk to people and want them to connect to it and hear what I have to say. So I think that energy still runs through my veins.
Because it's hard to duplicate that, right? I mean, the ultimate competitors, there's no getting that exactly the same, is there?
There isn't. But every time that I speak, and like with this coming up for the Hope House, the title is Believe, and I have put so much thought into the word believe. I mean, that's a deep word. If you really think, I had really never thought about believe, and then but that's a big word. I mean, that word is a heavy word. So I'm excited, and I'm like, no, I'm going to knock it out of the park. Saturday, I can't wait. I'm excited about that.
So
it's like a little bit of that fight energy comes back.
A little bit of those good jitters, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, I get that. And not having been in the ring or a high level performer, I don't think twice about being in front of a camera, because I've been doing it for 26 years, but there's still that excitement of getting in front of that audience and feeling that energy. And so, and then again, as we've talked about, making an impact. So my third question as we round the bases, I recently had on this podcast the director of diversity and inclusion for the NFL, who happens to be my cousin. And she, she had always hid being gay, and eventually came out, and it was really life-changing. And so not only is she making a difference in the world of LGBTQ, but she's making a major impact in the world of women, because when you start seeing now women, the referees, the coaches, the sport is opening up, it's becoming more normal. She is one of the ones pushing for that. And I know that you have that same ability to those young girls out there to provide that example, whether it's women that are being battered right now, mentally, physically, whatever it is, and giving them that hope and those tools and inspiration, or it's those young girls too. How much does that mean for you? And you were that influence when you were boxing too, to be able to have that influence and that ability to affect the dreams, the lives of so many girls and women.
I think it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure that, like, I have this opportunity, and I need to make sure that I take care of it. I mean, I have to get out there and speak to these different, like the little girls. I'm doing the amateur tournament this weekend here in Fayetteville. We have a team coming down from up north. They have 7 young girls coming with them. And the coach called me and asked me, is there, maybe at the venue, can you just come talk to my girls? And I'm like, no. But I'll hook up with them at the hotel. I'll go to their hotel room where they have me one-on-one, and I have them, like I have their focus, they have my focus, and let's talk about it. And maybe one of those 7 or 8 girls will be the one that 10 years from now is going to remember the words I said. Or she may be the one that her mother's in a bad situation, her sister, so she'll be able to go back and make the difference in someone else's life.
That's what it's all about. Very powerful. And that's what you get out of bed for every single day. So last question, the walk-off. I know you have a lot going on with the speaking, charitable stuff, the events that you just mentioned too. Can you just give everyone that is listening a little bit of an idea of ways to get a hold of you, and just the different, I don't know if there are any events or anything that you want to promote beyond Hope House, which July 31st, if you're listening in advance, Christy will be the keynote speaker and raising a lot of money, a lot of amazing sponsors and auction items and the whole works. I mean, this is really going to make an impact and hopefully save a lot of women from a lot of scary situations. But what are you working on, or what do you have your eyes on right now?
Right now, as I keep mentioning, this amateur tournament here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, we're teaming up with the Harnett County Sheriff's PAL program, and we're going to have over 400 boxers here this weekend to compete, and that's exciting to me. And at that time, we can make a difference in each of those kids, hopefully, by just giving them the opportunity to come here to compete, but also to talk to them just a little bit about domestic violence. So everybody that walks away from here has some thought in their mind. And then hopefully, they'll be a little more aware of their circumstances or their parents' circumstances, wherever they may be. And then I do the pro shows. We have pro shows in August in Myrtle Beach. We're down in Orlando. I'll be speaking up in Chesapeake, Virginia in August. A lot of stuff going on. Anytime I can get out there and share my story, I feel like it can make a difference in someone's life. And that's why God left me here. So that's what I'm going to do. Social media wise, people can find Christy's Champs on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things. I absolutely despise social media, but at the same time, it is such a great tool to get out there. And I have so many people contact me through Christy's Champs on especially Facebook page that needs help. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to help as many people as we possibly can.
It's a necessary evil, social media, and then it becomes what you do with it or what you don't do with it. I'd like to tune it out more than I do, but I do know it's an amazing way to reach people, to be able to communicate with people, and in your case, hopefully help give a lot of people hope, potentially even save lives, inspire, and that is the work that you are doing, which is truly remarkable and amazing. And so I appreciate you sharing the story. We'll have it in the show notes. That I mean, really, you could go online and Google the name Christy Martin, and you could read any article, see any video, and there's all the detail. There's some gory details in there. I mean, we just covered a little bit of it, but I think the beauty of it is that you live to talk about it and to help change so many other people's lives. So I'm so excited to meet you in person and to be able to hear you speak on July 31st. If you're listening or watching this after the fact, just check into more of what Christy's doing, because I suspect that you're going to be in front of people for many, many, many years at different events and tournaments and whatever it is, to be able to share your story and help them. So thanks for your courage. Thanks for everything you're doing. And it's so great to be able to catch up with you on Rounding the Bases. Thank
you. One last plug. Netflix documentary is coming out August 17th. I think it's going to be about a 90-minute documentary on the life and struggles and survival. Christy Martin.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. So I think you'll end up being my second guest that will end up on Netflix, which is pretty cool. The first one is a story, Wesley Hamilton, who was one of my best guests, and just real quick, a kid that grew up in a tough neighborhood here in Kansas City, and expected as a young black man that you just die young, and that's just the way it goes. And he was shot and survived it and paralyzed, and it took the inspiration of seeing how much his young daughter looked up to him to say, I got to keep living and fighting. And now he is a major influential person in this community. So these things can happen quickly. If they're telling your story on Netflix, it's obviously a good one with thankfully a great ending, and more to come. So we'll look for that on Netflix. I'm glad you gave me that plug. Again, I will see you July 31st. And thanks for spending so much time, Christy, on Rounding the Bases.
Thank you. See you soon.
For more information about Rounding the Bases, as well as my speaking services, you can visit our website at joelgoldbergmedia.com. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Links to all are in the show notes. To watch this episode or others, subscribe to our YouTube page. It's free and can be found on YouTube by searching Joel Goldberg Media, or there's a bit.ly link to all the episodes in the show notes. Colleen Lotz is the producer and editor of RTB. Danielle Welsh, owner of Bridge Consulting and Design, handles all of my marketing with the assistance of Andrew Drake. The catchy theme song comes from entertainer A.Y. Young, and Sierra Smith is the go-to for bookings and keeping this operation running smoothly. My name is Joel Goldberg. Thanks for checking us out, and hope to catch you next time on Rounding the Bases, presented by Community America Credit Union.
Joel Goldberg, it's around the bases. Everybody knows Joel Goldberg.